Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am sharing with you my TBR game Rotating Decks, where I have Uno cards help me pick my prompts to create part of my monthly TBR. I will also be sharing with you my TBR for March Mystery Madness, or should I say my pile of possibilities. And it is quite a large pile, if I do say so myself. There are a ton of books in front of me at the moment. But let me tell you, before we get started, how I did on my prompts for the month of February. So in the game for February, I actually ended up with 2 special wilds, which means I could read whatever I wanted. And so the only prompt I actually ended up with was Suki Stackhouse. So this just meant that I needed to continue the Suki Stackhouse series. So I was on book 2, which is Living Dead in Dallas, and I did read this. And then for my 2 wild cards, I decided for one of them I was going to read Blood Fever by Karen Marie Moning as part of my read-along with my friend Janaea over at Live a Thousand Lives. And I did read that one. I will link her announcement video down in the description box below in case you'd like to join in. And then for my other special wild, I decided I want to continue Bleach with this omnibus. This is a Bleach 3-in-1. This is omnibus number 12. And as you can see, I am right here, so I have read 2 of the 3 volumes in this omnibus. As of the day I'm filming this, it is February 18th, so I do still have a week and a little bit, so I have no doubt that I will be able to finish this before the end of the month. So even though I'm not doing any more punishments for not completing my TBR, it still feels good to be able to say that I finished everything that I planned to read for the month of February. So, like I mentioned a little earlier, I am co-hosting again our 8th round of March Mystery Madness. If you didn't know, March Mystery Madness is a month-long reading event where we encourage and promote the reading of mysteries throughout the month of March. We do have a theme and a prompt set if you are interested in utilizing them. But as always, there is no requirement to use the prompt or our theme in order to participate. You just need to read one mystery. It doesn't matter what type of mystery it is. As long as it is a mystery, you are participating. So I will go over what I am planning to read for March Mystery Madness after we go through the gameplay and I tell you what I pull for those prompts. And so without further ado, let's get to the gameplay and see what kind of prompts I have to deal with and hope that they will work well with what I am planning to read for March Mystery Madness. So let's flip to that gameplay right now. Okay, here is the setup for March. As you can see, we do not have a deck on board, and that is because we're going with the most popularly voted deck, as the last card I pulled for February's game was a special wild. So we need to change the deck out, and so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the poll. And as you hopefully can see, the most popular deck was the Lion King deck. So let me go pull that deck, and then we'll get this game started. Okay, so here's the Lion King deck. It was not even opened yet. So I had to do the super shuffle on the deck. And so now that I have shuffled the deck, I'm going to have my daughter come over here and cut the deck so that you know that I don't know what is on the top of this deck. Okay, so as per usual, I'm going to pull 3 cards and let's hope that they are nice to me. So, first card will be, that is a lovely sight right there. That is a skip. And so that means I don't have to read anything for that prompt. Off to a good start. Next card will be, that is a green 7. And the prompt is, finish a book on your currently reading. So that means that I have to read a book that's on my currently reading list on Goodreads. I believe there is only one book that is languishing there at the moment. Besides the one that I am currently reading, which I should be finished with before this video goes live. So we'll have to see about that. And then our last card will be, that is a reverse card. So that means I'm going to redo this card. Okay. Let's pull the second card again. That is a draw 2, which means I need to pull 2 prompts from the blue because it's blue. So I'm just going to pull right off the top here. So let's see what we got. This is a BookTube recommendation. So I just need to find a book that was talked about highly on BookTube. So that shouldn't be too bad. And our next one is most recently added to Goodreads. So that just basically means between the last 10, I would say, because I like to give myself a little bit of room to choose. So we'll take a look at my Goodreads shortly. Okay, we've got one more prompt to go. So let's hope it's good to me. Last card is, that is a green 5. And the prompt is recommended by Goodreads. So I just need to find a book that's on one of the recommendations lists on Goodreads and read that. So that shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. Though I will say, I've gotten a few really strange recommendations on those lists. So we shall see. That is the game for March. Let me go pull books for these prompts, and I will be back in a bit to share with you what I have chosen. Okay, so at least we're getting to hold on to our deck for more than one game. Thank you to all of you who had voted for the deck to be used. I have cleared the tallies, so please continue to vote for the next deck, because whenever I get a wild card to switch out the deck, I will be utilizing the poll to tell me which deck to use. So, it was an adventurous gameplay this month. Fortunately, I think I'll be able to work with these prompts for March Mystery Madness, but let's get into it. So, the first card we got was a skip, which meant that I didn't need to read anything, which was great, but then we followed it up with a green 7, which was then followed up by a reverse. So reverse means that I had to negate the previous prompt, but that brought me a draw 2. So that kind of negated the skip as well, right? So I had to pick 2 prompts off of the blue deck. So the first prompt was BookTube recommendation, and that just meant I needed to read something that I heard high praises for on BookTube. And so I went to my good friend Lee over at Dark Roots Creations. She had done a top reads of 2022 video or something like that for the end of the year, and she was talking about the Gallagher Girls series by Allie Carter. And I had read the first book in the Gallagher Girls series a while ago and always meant to continue but didn't. And so I will be reading Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy by Allie Carter, which is the second book in the Gallagher Girls series. This is about a girl who enrolls in a spy school. And in this one, I believe one of the rooms was compromised, and our main character is thought to be the culprit. And so I'm looking forward to this one. It's a nice middle grade book, and so that is what I have chosen for that prompt. The next prompt I got was most recently added to Goodreads, and so that just means I needed to go to my Goodreads to read shelf and see what I had added to that shelf most recently. I always give myself a 10 book span because I'm not necessarily going to be very interested in just one, and I don't like to be told that I have to read a particular thing. I feel like that is a punishment. So I give myself within the last 10. And so went to my Goodreads shelf and I pulled up the list. And within the top 10, there was a book called Stolen Tongues. This is by Felix Blackwell. So Stolen Tongues, I got actually as a recommendation from one of my newest friends, Gemma, over at Bookish Gems. She had done a, again, top of 2022 type video, and I had heard her talk about this particular book in that video. This, I believe, was her favorite book of the year, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a horror mystery about a couple who goes on a anniversary vacation or something like that, for a romantic getaway. And at the cabin that they're staying in, there is a mysterious dark figure outside of the window whispering, and eventually the wife, I think they're married, ends up whispering back in her sleep or something like that. It sounded intriguing. Gemma talked really highly about this book, and so it's available on Kindle Unlimited for me, and so I'm going to go ahead and borrow that for that prompt. Also in my list was Foxtales by Tomohiko Morimi. This is a collection of short stories, but I'm not entirely sure that this is a mystery. It sounds like they're more like horror, supernatural type stories. It says a collection of 4 spooky tales for the modern era, all tied to a certain Kyoto curio shop. A basket of wriggles, a masked man lingers in the shadows, and things are offered, lost, and forgotten. What mysteries lie hidden in the city's winding streets? So it doesn't actually say that this is a mystery. The tags on Goodreads say supernatural and I think horror. So I may pick this one up and see for sure. It, like I said, is a collection of short stories. I recently picked this one up, so that may also be something that I gravitate towards during the month. Even if I don't read that to complete that prompt, it is something that I have put on my radar for the month. And so the last card I pulled was a green 5. And so that brought me recommended by Goodreads. And so I just needed to go to one of the recommendations lists on Goodreads and pick something. Now, I thought that there would be a shelf for my March Mystery Madness shelf, because I do have a shelf called March Mystery Madness. But for whatever reason, even though I have recommendations selected for that shelf, they don't give me recommendations for that shelf. So I had to search around on a few of the different shelves to actually find something that I'd be interested in reading and that would fit for March Mystery Madness. And so I found this particular one. This is From Below by Darcy Coates. And my mom actually brought home an ARC. My mom does work at Barnes & Noble, and she had brought home this ARC. And so this kind of sounds like Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, but underwater. It says, no light, no air, no escape. Hundreds of feet beneath the ocean surface, a graveyard waits. So a ship called the SS Arcadia vanished without a trace. 60 years later, its wreck has finally been discovered more than 300 miles from its intended course, a silent graveyard deep beneath the ocean surface, eagerly waiting for the first sign of life. So a dive team goes down there after being granted permission to do so, and they just need to examine the wreck, film everything, and if possible uncover how and why the supposedly unsinkable ship vanished. So kind of sounds Titanic-y, and if you know me, I'm very intrigued with all things Titanic. Then it says, but the Arcadia has not yet had its fill of death, and something dark and hungry watches from below. With limited oxygen and the ship slowly closing in around them, Cove and her team will have to fight their way free of the unspeakable horror now desperate to claim them. So this definitely piques my interest on several levels. I have read from Darcy Coates before, a haunted house type book, and I thought it was interesting. It was a little bit predictable though for me. So I'm interested to see what I feel about this one, especially with how it kind of sounds like the Titanic, but with a horror type edge to it. This book, however, is very long. It is 469 pages. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to this one. As far as I can tell, there's no audiobook available yet from my library, so we'll have to see about this one. But this is the one that caught my eye first. And then the other one that came up on a different recommendations list was Live and Let Chai. This is the first book in the Seaside Cafe Cozy Mystery series by Bree Baker. So this particular Cozy Mystery series was not one that I had on my radar, but I believe it's about a cafe owner who has a customer who is not very nice and ends up dying right outside her cafe. And right near the customer there is pictures of her iced tea, and it seems like the customer had died by poisoning, and so a cafe owner is being looked at as a suspect, and obviously they're going to become our amateur sleuth. And so yeah, it sounded interesting. This one is available for me via audiobook from Hoopla, and so that's definitely one that piqued my interest. And so I'm giving myself a few options with my reading in the month of March, because I do want to get through as many mysteries as I can in the month. And there's also, our prompts and things, and there are a bunch of other things that I want to try to read during the month as well. So now that we've gone through all of the things to read for my TBR game, let me tell you about my large pile of possibilities for March Mystery Madness. So our theme for March Mystery Madness is spring cleaning. And so we have 4 prompts: gritty or messy, lather, rinse, or repeat. And so I do have some things that I can fit in for those. So for gritty or messy, I'm going to read Fae Fever, which is the 3rd book in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. Like I said earlier, I am participating in the read-along for the Fever series with my friend Janaea over at Live 1,000 Lives. And so in March, we're supposed to read the 3rd one. This is mysterious. There is a mystery to it. They are trying to find a book. And it is gritty. There are things within the story that are gritty, and our character Mac is kind of a mess. She doesn't really know her abilities and a lot about herself, and so I think this fits well. So I'm going to use that one for that first prompt. The next prompt is lather, and for that one I am going to read Devil May Ride. This is the 2nd book in the Ghost Dusters mystery series by Wendy Roberts. We read the first one for Book One Cozy's Club, which was my previous first in a series Cozy Mystery Book Club, and I quite enjoyed it. And the reason this fits for lather is because our main character is a crime scene cleanup specialist. And so I thought that fits perfectly for lather, because crime scene cleanup involves lathering. And so I really enjoyed the first book in the series. And basically our crime scene cleanup tech can see ghosts and ends up figuring out mysteries brought to her by these ghosts. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing with this one. Like I said, I really enjoyed the first one. And so I thought that would be a perfect selection for lather. For rinse, I decided that I wanted a little bit of a palate cleanser. And so instead of reading an actual novel, I'm going to read a manga. And so for this one, I decided to choose Museum. This one is by Ryosuke Tomoe, and it is a 3-volume serial killer manga series. I had purchased this one as part of a Humble Bundle, which was offered by Kodansha. And I read the first volume in October, I believe, and really was intrigued. And I really want to continue the series. So I'm actually going to reread the first volume and then read through the entirety of the series. And like I said, it's about a serial killer and the cops going after them. And so I thought that would be a great place to put in a manga to read. And manga is definitely something that will help me read more during the month because they're usually faster reads for me. And then the last prompt is to repeat. And so for this one, I am going to start a reread of a series. And so I've been really wanting to reread the Ghost Hunter mystery series by Victoria Laurie. I really enjoyed the series. This series follows our main character, whose name is MJ, and she is a psychic medium, just like the author of this series. And MJ, throughout this series, goes to different places and kind of exercises them. And so I've been really wanting to get back to this series for a while. And I do finally own all of them. And so I will be rereading this series in the month of March. Not sure how many I'm going to be able to get through, but I do have them all on audiobook as well. The first book in the series is not my favorite, if I remember correctly, but I need to read the first one to get through the rest of them, and so I'm going to be doing that. The other things that I have on my radar for this particular prompt, though, is to finish a series that I've traditionally read during March Mystery Madness, and I didn't read one of these last year. And so to repeat would be to read something again from an author you've read from before. And so I'm going to try to get these two read. And these are the last 2 books in the Haunted Museum series by Suzanne Wen. This is The Cursed Scarab, which is number 3, and The Pearl Earring, which is number 4. I think, at least, that is the way it goes. But this series is a middle grade series about a place called the Haunted Museum. And usually what happens in the beginning of these series is we find our main character, and the main character changes from book to book, who ends up going to the Haunted Museum either on a class field trip or with their family or whatever. And there's signs everywhere that says, do not touch the artifacts. And inevitably, one of them touches the artifact and then kind of becomes cursed. And so that's kind of the main theme of the story. And so I believe the artifacts are the scarab and the earring. And so I'm really looking forward to finishing this series. I've quite enjoyed both of them. The draw for me with this series is the first book, which is the Titanic Locket. And like I've told you before, I am very interested in all things Titanic. And so that is what drew me to the first book. And I've quite enjoyed the 2 that I've read. Unfortunately, this series only has 4 volumes. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to those as well. Now, that's what I've chosen for those prompts. But I do have a stack of other things here that could potentially fit into prompts or not. They are mysteries, though. So I'm just going to go through them really quickly. First of all, I do need to let you know about the Monochrome Manga Club series reads, because I do run an in real life manga club, and we read 2 first in a series selections, and we are currently doing 2 series reads. So our selections for the month of March are Kimono Jihen Volume 1 by Sho Aimoto. This one's published by 7 Seas, rated older teen. This is about a monster detective agency, and in this first volume we find a detective of the occult being summoned from Tokyo to solve a mystery. He meets a boy scorned by villagers who is called by the name of a yokai that dwells in the muddy fields. And the detective eventually learns there's more to the boy than meets the eye, and vice versa. So I thought that would be interesting to read. And then our second first in a series read is Usotoki Rhetoric, Volume 1 by Ritsu Miyako. This one's published by One Piece Books, and this is a historical manga about a girl who has left her hometown after it turns against her for having the ability to hear lies when spoken. She collapses from hunger after arriving in a town called Tsukumoya, where she meets a poverty-stricken detective named Iwai Soma. Is this fate or something more? And so I thought that would be very interesting to read, and they're both mysteries, so they'll work perfectly well for March Mystery Madness. And then on to our series reads. So we are continuing our read of Erased by Kei Sanbei with Volume 2 in the omnibus. This is published by Yen Press, rated teen. This is about a man who experiences time revivals. So when he is in a place where something that could be prevented happens, he gets sent back in time to try to prevent that from happening. And usually it's only about 5 or 10 minutes prior. And as we follow him through the story, something occurs where he ends up being sent back several years back to when he's 11 to try to prevent the murder of his classmate. And so we read Volume 1 for the Monochrome Manga Club in February. Really enjoyed it, and it left on a cliffhanger, so I'm really looking forward to continuing this one. It is an omnibus, and so I really enjoyed that one, and that is also a mystery. The only thing that's not really mysterious, but does have a little bit of mystery in it, I would say, is our next series read, or our continuing series read, I should say, of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. So we are continuing with volumes 17 and 18. This is by Koyo Harugotoge. My favorite synopsis of this series is Michael Jackson kills our main character's family, and so our main character decides to kill Michael Jackson. And that's because the demon in this book, or in this story, kind of looks like Michael Jackson a little bit. But that is basically the gist of it. Our main character, Tanjiro, his family gets murdered at the beginning of the story. Only his sister Nezuko seems to have lived through, but it turns out that Nezuko has been turned into a demon by the demon that murdered his family. And so he is on a mission to try to turn Nezuko back into a human and defeat the demon that killed his family. I have really enjoyed this series. It's very surprising for me because I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much, but this series just pulls at the heartstrings. We've watched the anime up to what's been released so far, and I've really enjoyed that as well. And I'm looking forward to continuing with these 2 volumes. So that is what we'll be reading for the Monochrome Manga Club. I don't know that any of these will fit the prompts, except for maybe this one, which would be gritty, because I'm expecting it to be a little bit gritty. And I suppose this one could count for messy. It is a little bit messy with all of the trash in the corner here. But yeah, there are mysteries, and so they will fit well for March Mystery Madness. And then I have a stack here of other things that I have pulled out in case the feeling arises to pick any of these up. So I'm going to try to go through these as fast as I can. So first off is this huge book. This is 6-4 by Hideo Yokoyama. This is about a kidnapping that occurs, I think it says at the beginning here. Synopsis is short enough. I will read it to you. For 5 days in January 1989, the parents of a 7-year-old Tokyo schoolgirl sat and listened to the demands of their daughter's kidnapper. They would never learn his identity. They would never see their daughter again. For the 14 years that followed, the Japanese public listened to the police's apologies. They would never forget the botched investigation that became known as 6-4. They would never forgive the authorities for their failure. For 1 week in late 2002, the press officer attached to the police department in question confronted an anomaly in the case. He could never imagine what he would uncover. He would never have looked if he'd known what he would find. So this follows a cold case, and I think this would work well for lather because it's kind of cleaning up a file, right? This is obviously a chunker. I would love to get to this in March because it's been one that's kind of been calling my name for a while. This book is 642 pages. I do believe there is an audiobook available, but I'm a little bit weary about listening to it because the sample that I listened to, I only listened to a few seconds. It sounds like it is a white man with a British accent. And for a Japanese novel that's been translated to English, I don't believe that's appropriate. And I believe that he's not going to be pronouncing things correctly. So I may give it a go and just like maybe vlog my way through it. I don't know if that would be interesting to other people, but I'm very weary about listening to the audiobook for this. But obviously it's going to take me a good chunk of time to get through this if I read it with my eyes. So yeah, I definitely want to get to this one sometime because like I said, it has been calling to me. And then I have a stack of light novels here. So I don't know much about these at all, but they are in my physical library. So I have Your Forma, Electronic Investigator Echika and Her Amicus Ex Machina. This is by Mareho Kikuishi. Illustration by Tsubata Nozaki. So this is volume 1. This is a science fiction mystery that occurs in an alternate 2023 where the Your Forma, a miraculous smart thread technology initially developed to treat a massive outbreak of viral encephalitis, has become an integral part of daily life. We follow a electronic investigator who dives into people's memories via Your Forma to hunt for evidence to solve the toughest crimes. So that intrigues me. So I pulled that one out. I also have this omnibus of Boogie Pop, the first 3 volumes. This is by Kohei Kadano, illustrated by Koji Ogata. This is a series of stories that starts with female students disappearing, and they wonder if the Shinigami named Boogie Pop is the one that is kidnapping the girls. So I've had that one on my shelf for a while, so I thought that would be interesting as well. I have Death Note, another note to the Los Angeles BB murder cases by Nishio. Original concept by Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. This is published by Viz. There's no age rating on it, but this is a novelization of a story that's hinted at in the Death Note manga series, which I read last year. And so I thought this might be interesting to read as well. It follows a story when Elle ends up going to Los Angeles, and it's kind of hinted at in the manga series. So if you've read the manga series, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Also by Nishio, I have this one. This is book 1 in the Kubikiri cycle. It's called Zaregoto. Illustrations by Take. This says it's a vacation of a lifetime, a trip to a remote island filled with geniuses and murder. And so I thought that sounded intriguing. And I've been wanting to get into that series for a while as well. I have volume 1 of the Case Files of Jeweler Richard, written by Nanako Tsujimura, illustrated by Utako Yukihiro. Cut, Carrot, and Clarity. This follows an enigmatic British jewelry appraiser and a young college student. The college student hires the appraiser to appraise a family heirloom, and it sparks a partnership that goes well beyond that one job. They end up investigating jewelry-related cases and solving mysteries, finding secret messages hidden in the hearts of the precious stones and the hearts of those who possess them. So I've been really wanting to get to this series. It's also available in manga format, but I have the light novel edition. And so I've been really interested in this one as well, so I've pulled that one out. I have The Detective Is Already Dead, Volume 1 by Nigyozu. Illustration by Umibozu. Again, this is the light novel edition. It is available in manga format as well. But this one follows a guy who's been a magnet for trouble. He meets a brilliant detective fighting against an organization of pseudo-humans, becomes her assistant, except the detective is already dead. And so I've been wanting to get into this series for a long time, and so I really want to get to this one as well, so I pulled that one out. And last but not least, I have the second volume of the Bungo Stray Dogs light novel series. This is by Kafka Asagiri, illustrations by Sango Harukawa. This is Osamu Dazai and the Dark Era. This one follows when Dazai leaves the Port Mafia. So it's kind of a prequel to the previous book in this series, because that is when Dazai joins the Armed Detective Agency. So this is what happens before that. And so, yes, I'm really interested in continuing with this one. My daughter has already read this one and is on to the third one. And so, yes, I'd like to read those so that I can discuss those books with her. But that is my large pile of possibilities for March Mystery Madness. And everything that I have pulled to choose from for the month. Lots of mysteries, lots of different types of mysteries. I've got middle grade, I've got manga, I've got light novels. I've got quite a bit to choose from. So that's how I like to have my TBRs, if I'm honest. And so I'm really excited about a lot of the things that I have in front of me and that I've just talked to you about. So let me know down in the comments below if you will be participating in March Mystery Madness and what you will be reading. Will you be reading to the prompts, or will you just be reading some mysteries that have caught your eye? I would really love to know. If nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a magnifying glass emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out, and that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smiley always. Bye.